Welcome back to the deep dive. Ready to do some shopping?
Always.
Well, today we're not hitting the mall. We're going virtual, exploring AI-powered conversational commerce. You know, like all those AI chatbots and virtual assistants that are popping up everywhere online.
Oh, absolutely.
It's pretty mind-blowing how this tech is changing the way we shop, but are we really ready to hand over our shopping carts to AI?
That is the question, and thankfully, we've got a great source to help you unpack it all.
Exactly. We're diving into an article called The Challenges Holding Back AI-Powered Conversational Commerce, Expert Insights and Solutions.
It's like a good one. What's the takeaway?
Well, it's all about the hurdles AI needs to clear before it truly becomes a seamless part of our everyday shopping experience. Imagine a world where you can just chat with an AI to get everything you need, no more browsing endless websites or waiting in line.
That sounds pretty amazing, actually. But I can already see where some issues might pop up.
Oh, for sure. There are some pretty big challenges to tackle before we fully embrace AI as our personal shopping guru.
I bet. Like, what about privacy?
Exactly. That's the first big one the article dives into. I mean, it's totally natural to be concerned about where all our personal data goes when we're chatting with these AI systems.
Right.
Are they keeping our secrets?
Right. AI needs a ton of data to be effective, but it's also super vulnerable.
It's a tough balancing act for sure. AI wants to know everything about you, what you like, what you've bought before, maybe even stuff you haven't even thought of yet, all to give you that hyper-personalized shopping experience.
But that same data is like gold to hackers.
Oh, absolutely. The article even mentions a data breach a few years back, 2020, I think. A major e-commerce chatbot provider had some serious security issues.
Yikes. What happened?
Things like customer purchase histories, personal preferences, all that juicy stuff. It was all exposed. Not cool.
Wow, that's unsettling. It really emphasizes how companies need to put data security front and center.
No kidding. One expert they quote in the article, Dr. Latanya Sweeney, she's a professor at Harvard and a real champion of data privacy. She believes that strong encryption is the key.
Makes sense. So like encrypting all that sensitive info, right?
Yep. It's kind of like putting all your valuable information in a super secure lockbox. Nobody can peek inside without the right key.
Smart. But what about building that security into the system itself?
That's what another expert they talked to, Bruce Schneier, argues for. He's like the online security guru, literally wrote the book on it. He's adamant that protection needs to be baked in from the very beginning, otherwise people just won't trust these systems.
He's got a point. I know I'd be hesitant to share all my info if I wasn't sure it was safe.
Yeah, and even if the security is top-notch, there's still that question of human touch.
The human touch? What do you mean?
Well, even if an AI knows everything about our shopping habits and keeps our data safe, can it really understand what we want or need as well as a human sales assistant can?
I see what you mean. It's about that empathy piece, right? Like
Yeah.
really getting where the customer is coming from.
Exactly. The article calls this out as the second big challenge. We've all been there, right? Dealing with a chatbot that just spits out generic responses clearly doesn't get your situation.
Oh, tell me about it. It's like talking to a wall sometimes.
The article gave an example that made me laugh, but it's also kind of sad. Someone's dealing with a damaged product, and the chatbot just offers up this robotic, sorry for the inconvenience, like, come on.
Right. We need a little more than a programmed apology.
Seriously.
Right.
Especially if you've had a truly frustrating experience. You want to feel heard and understood, not dismissed with some canned response.
So are there any experts working on this, making AI more, well, human?
Actually, yeah, the article dives into that too. There's Dr. Kate Darling from the MIT Media Lab. She's done a ton of research on how we humans interact with AI on an emotional level.
Interesting. So what has she found?
Well, it turns out AI can sort of mimic empathy, like it can recognize certain keywords or phrases that suggest someone is feeling happy, sad, angry, whatever.
Oh, so like picking up on emotional cues.
Yeah, but actually replicating true human connection, that's a whole other ballgame. It's much more complex.
So it's kind of like AI can learn the language of emotions, but it doesn't really understand the nuances. Like an actor reading lines without feeling the character's emotions.
That's a perfect analogy. And it ties in with the work of Professor Clifford Nass, you know, one of the pioneers in human-computer interaction.
Oh, yeah. Didn't he emphasize how AI systems need to meet our emotional needs, not just provide information?
Exactly. It's about building rapport, making us feel comfortable and understood, like we're actually interacting with something or someone who gets us.
Makes sense. So we've got security and empathy on the table. But what about when things get a little more complicated? Like, what if I'm trying to use a coupon or modify my order in a way that the AI wasn't programmed to handle? Can it think on its feet?
Ooh, that's a great point. It brings us to the third challenge the article explores: limited problem-solving ability. Chatbots are great at simple tasks, but when it comes to anything outside their pre-programmed script, they tend to crash and burn.
Ouch. So are we basically stuck with AI that can only handle the basics?
Well, not necessarily. The article actually highlights some pretty amazing minds working on this very issue. Like, they talk about Dr. Fei Li from the Stanford Human-Centered AI Institute, who's doing some really fascinating work
What's she working on?
making AI more adaptable. Like, imagine an AI that can answer your questions about a product, but then also anticipate what you might ask next, or even suggest alternatives based on your needs. It's next level stuff.
Wow, that would be incredible. It's like having a super helpful and knowledgeable shopping buddy by your side.
Exactly. And then there's Gary Marcus, a cognitive scientist who believes we need to go beyond just machine learning. He thinks we need to combine that with something called symbolic reasoning.
Symbolic reasoning. That sounds intense. What is that exactly?
It's a bit complex, but essentially it's about teaching AI to understand the logic behind things, not just patterns and data. Like, instead of just spitting out pre-programmed responses, AI could actually start to reason and solve problems more like a human.
That's pretty mind-blowing. So we could potentially have AI that can actually think for itself.
It's definitely a work in progress, but the possibilities are pretty exciting. But speaking of communication, what about all the different ways people talk? Dialects, slang, cultural references, all that good stuff. Can AI really keep up?
Oh, good point. I hadn't even thought of that, but it's so important.
Yeah, it's another big challenge the article digs into: language and cultural barriers. Like, imagine you're a Spanish-speaking customer trying to use a chatbot that's only programmed for standard American English.
Talk about a frustrating experience.
It's like trying to have a conversation through a broken translator. Total miscommunication. The article mentions a linguistics professor, Dr. Emily Bender, who's advocating for AI language models that are way more inclusive of these regional and cultural differences.
So embracing the diversity of language rather than trying to make everyone fit into one box.
Exactly. And then there's Dr. Radha Mahalsia. She's an expert in multilingual natural language processing.
Oh, there's a mouthful.
Try saying that 5 times fast. Anyway, she's working on AI that can seamlessly translate and understand all those nuances in language. So no matter how you speak or what cultural references you use, the AI can still understand you.
It's like building a universal translator powered by AI. That's pretty amazing.
It is. But let's be honest, sometimes it feels like those AI recommendations are more about pushing products than actually helping us.
Oh, totally. It's like, are you recommending this because it's good for me or because you're trying to hit a sales quota? Where's the trust?
That's right. Trust in AI recommendations is a huge hurdle. The article uses a great example: someone shopping for skincare products, but they get the feeling the AI is just pushing the most expensive brands, not necessarily the best ones for their skin.
Oh, yeah. That makes you feel like you're being played, not helped.
Exactly. And since these AI systems are so complex, it can be hard to know what's really going on behind the scenes. The article emphasizes the need for transparency. Like, how are these algorithms working? What data are they using? Consumers deserve to know.
Absolutely. Transparency is key to building trust. If we don't understand how these systems work, how can we be expected to trust their recommendations?
It's like they're saying, hey, buy this fancy face cream. Never mind if it's actually right for you. Just trust us.
Right. And how are we supposed to know if those recommendations are legit?
Exactly. The article suggests something called fairness audits.
Fairness audits. What are those?
Well, they're basically a way to check if these AI algorithms are treating everyone fairly and not pushing certain products unfairly.
Oh, like making sure the AI isn't playing favorites or secretly promoting certain brands.
Exactly. And the article highlights Kathy O'Neill, who wrote a book called Weapons of Math Destruction. She's a huge advocate for these fairness audits.
Weapons of math destruction.
Yeah.
Sounds intense.
It is. She's super concerned about biased algorithms and how they can perpetuate inequality. These audits would help ensure that AI is making recommendations based on, what's best for the individual, not just what's most profitable.
I like it. Transparency and fairness. 2 things we definitely need more of in the AI world.
For sure. And another expert they mentioned, Dr. Timnit Gebru, she's a leading voice in AI ethics. She stresses how important it is to build these AI systems responsibly from the ground up.
Makes sense. So not just focusing on the tech itself, but also on the ethical implications.
Exactly. She believes that transparency is essential for building trust. Consumers need to be able to understand how these AI systems are working and what data is being used to generate those recommendations.
It's kind of like being able to peek behind the curtain and see the wizard, so to speak.
Huh, exactly. But even if we have all the transparency and fairness in the world, there's still another big hurdle. Not everyone's a tech whiz. Some people just aren't familiar or comfortable navigating the digital world.
Oh, that's a good point. Not everyone's as tech savvy as we are.
Exactly. And AI can feel especially intimidating for those who aren't super digitally inclined. The article calls this out as a major challenge, this lack of technological literacy among users.
It's like being thrown into a foreign country where you don't speak the language. Everything feels confusing and overwhelming.
Exactly. The article emphasizes how crucial it is to make these AI tools more user-friendly, especially for folks who might not be digital natives.
So making it more intuitive, easier to understand.
Yeah. They talk about Dr. Esther Hargitay, who's an expert in digital literacy. She believes we need to bridge this digital divide.
The digital divide. It's like this gap between those who are comfortable with tech and those who aren't, right?
Exactly. And it's even more pronounced when it comes to something as complex as AI. She believes that education and user-centered design are key to making AI accessible to everyone, regardless of their tech skills.
So it's not just about building the technology, but also about making sure people can actually use it.
Exactly. And the article highlights another cool expert, Dr. Amy Gonzalez, whose work focuses on inclusive technology design.
Inclusive technology design. I like the sound of that.
Right. It's all about making tech easy and intuitive for everyone to use, regardless of their background or tech skills.
So it's like designing with accessibility in mind from the very beginning.
That's the idea. But it's not just about consumers. We also need to think about the businesses using this tech.
Oh, right. What about the businesses?
Well, implementing all this fancy AI can't be cheap, right? So the article also explores the impact on businesses, especially smaller ones who might not have those big tech budgets.
Right. Not every business can afford to just drop a ton of cash on AI.
Exactly. It's another challenge they highlight. The high cost of implementation for businesses.
So for smaller companies with limited resources, it can feel like they're being left behind in the AI race.
Yeah, it's like trying to compete in a marathon when everyone else has a fancy sports car and you're stuck with a pair of old sneakers. Not exactly fair.
So how do we level the playing field?
Yeah.
Make this tech more accessible to everyone.
That's where the idea of democratizing AI comes in.
Democratizing AI, what does that mean?
It's about making this powerful technology accessible and affordable for businesses of all sizes, not just those with deep pockets.
I like that. So even small startups can benefit from AI.
Exactly. The article talks about some cool folks who are leading the charge on this. Like they mentioned Andrew Ng. He's a real pioneer in the AI world, and he's a huge advocate for making AI affordable for smaller businesses.
That's awesome. What's he doing to make that happen?
Well, his work is focused on developing scalable solutions that don't require those massive upfront investments, so even a tiny company can still leverage the power of AI.
So it's like giving everyone the tools they need to succeed, regardless of their size or budget.
That's the goal. And there are some big players getting involved, too. They mention Arvind Krishna, the CEO of IBM. He's also committed to democratizing AI through initiatives like IBM Watson.
IBM Watson, that rings a bell. What is that exactly?
It's a powerful platform that allows businesses to build and deploy their own AI solutions, including conversational AI.
Cool. So even if a business doesn't have the resources to build everything from scratch, they can still use tools like Watson to get in on the action.
Exactly. It's about fostering innovation and making sure that everyone has a chance to participate in this AI-powered future, not just a select few. So we've covered a lot of ground here, from those concerns about data privacy to figuring out how to make AI more empathetic and actually helpful. And of course, how to make sure everyone can benefit from it, not just those who are already tech savvy or have deep pockets.
It's been quite the journey.
It really has. Remember at the beginning you asked if we're truly ready for a world where AI is calling the shots on our shopping trips. Well, after unpacking all these challenges and hearing about the amazing folks working on solutions, I'm feeling cautiously optimistic.
Cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, I think there's huge GE potential here. But we have to be mindful of those pitfalls, We can't just blindly jump on the AI bandwagon without thinking things through.
I agree. It's not just about the tech itself. It's about using it responsibly and making sure it aligns with our values.
Exactly. And that's where you, the listener, come in. This isn't just something that's happening to us. We all have a role to play in shaping the future of AI.
So what can we do?
Well, for starters, we can stay informed, Learn about how these AI systems work, ask questions, and don't be afraid to push back if something doesn't feel right.
Don't be a passive consumer. Be an active participant. I like it.
Exactly. So, as we wrap up this deep dive into AI powered conversational commerce, we want to leave you with something to ponder. As AI gets smarter and more integrated into our lives, what role do you want it to play in your shopping experience?
Interesting question.
Right. Like, do you see it as this super helpful assistant guiding you through a seamless, personalized shopping journey? Or are there some parts of shopping, like that human connection you were talking about earlier, or maybe the thrill of the hunt that you'd prefer to keep AI free?
That's a good question to think about. Where do we draw the line?
Exactly. And it's a conversation that's only going to get more important as AI keeps evolving. So keep those minds curious. And if you want to explore any of these topics further, we've got links to all those awesome experts and their work in the show notes.
That was a good resource.
Absolutely. And hey, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of AI-powered conversational commerce. Until next time, keep exploring and stay curious.